So you want to read more books. Maybe you want to read 100 plus books a year. Last year, I had 108 books. This year, end of April, I read about 60. So probably going to be close to 200 books this year. But my first question really is, are you sure? Do you actually want to read 100 books a year? If we break it down by the numbers and also financial commitment, you might change your mind. For me, the average book length is 350 pages, which 100 books, 35,000 a year, about a minute a page. 35,000 minutes, you're looking at about 600 hours. If we do that per day, it's probably around an hour 30, an hour 40. And that's a lot of time. I just wouldn't recommend it because, yeah, you can skim a book, you can speed read a book, and it will take you less than an hour 40 a day. But are you really reading the book? Are you actually absorbing and retaining? Or are you just racking up numbers? If you've, gone cover to cover, but you didn't actually understand, you didn't take anything away, so what? What's the benefit of that? You just said, yeah, I've read a book, look at all these books I've read. It's that the purpose of reading a book is to actually get something from it. That's, for me, why I'm invested in this hobby. I don't see it as a numbers game. That almost happens as a side effect, it's secondary. And I think that's how we should approach reading. So reading more, great. Dedicating more time to reading as a fundamental principle. And however many books you read, it's rather coincidental for me. The other aspect is the financial aspect. If we're talking about 100 books and you're not going to the library, so if we're talking about even buying secondhand, you're probably looking at a few £100s. And then if you're buying new, if you're buying sort of the latest books that are coming out, I mean, you're looking at 1,000 plus. It's a lot. But I think it also takes into account that maybe we should just reread more and spend more time with the books that we do have. And as you grow, as you develop, as you come back to it a year later, 2 years later, you've changed. And when you change, you fundamentally see the world differently. And that's a beautiful thing, that the book can stay the same, but because we've changed, we alter our conception of it. So if you are sure, whether it's to read 100 books or whether it's just to read more books, first thing I'd say is don't go from 0 to 100. One of the worst things that I think can happen is that you are forcing yourself to read loads of books and you just don't enjoy it. You end up burning out. It's a lot what happens to people who do English literature at university. One, it's all compulsory, and I think we do better when we have a bit more independence over our actions and what we're doing. But two, it's just become such a saturated life where the only thing that you do, the only thing that you think about is reading. And it's something that you have to do, not something that you want to do. So when you come out on the other side, you feel like you don't want to read a book for the rest of your life. And I think that's a pretty sad thing. And I'd hate to do that to myself. So I think we should always keep in mind that we just need to read a bit more than we did and try and maintain that. Maintain that every day, great. But even if you don't, there's nothing wrong with not reading a day. There are a lot of days where I don't read. It's just I have some days where I read a lot. And that's how I manage to go through as many books as I do. It should never be something that you feel bad about not doing. Reading is a hobby. It's not work. For some people it's work, but for most people, for the majority, reading is a hobby. So let it be a hobby. Another aspect to the building up is that you can slowly start to develop and work out what you actually enjoy reading. We should never be forcing ourselves to read. And in the same way, we don't have to push through a book. I don't think there's any benefit to pushing through a book just because then you've got sort of the sunk cost fallacy that you've come this far, you've just got to finish it. Why? If you're reading because you want to hit a number, that's why you push through. But if you're halfway through and it's still not engaging you, then I would just drop it. Because after all, there is something to be said about working out what you don't like and how that can help to inform you. Often it's not defined by what it is, but defined by what it is not. So if you can work out which books you don't like, you can start to better understand which books you do like. And why? Is it the characterizations? Is it the setting? Is it the topic? Because that is one of the beauties about a book, is it is revelatory and it is shining a spotlight on ourselves. We can see, if we pay attention, what we engage with. And perhaps you can start to fundamentally understand what we value and what our principles are, which I think is a very important thing for anyone to do. And books are a great way to discover that. And it goes back again to the idea of a definition, is that sometimes it's easier, especially with books that we disagree with, as then we can really understand why we disagree with them. We can then start to make sense of who we are, where we stand in the world, and perhaps if we're so inclined, to change that. And as we go through these phases of engaging with books we either dislike or like, we start to hone our taste, and we start to work out what we really do enjoy, which can naturally lead us towards reading more books as we keep getting cycles of enjoyment and we keep that momentum going, which is another important part of the reading process. Keep that motivation going. And it's a lot easier when you're enjoying what you're reading. Another way that I think is good is to absorb content around that. So one of the things that I find really helpful with things that I'm pursuing and need a bit more motivation for, not necessarily reading it, I think I have a fairly good inclination towards that, but for things like learning different languages, playing musical instruments, I find that absorbing content focused on that and watching other people on their journey through that is very helpful and motivates me to then go out and do it. But the important thing of note there, I think, is to act on it straight away as motivation can be fleeting. But if we straight away go when we have the motivation and we take advantage of it, then I think it can be a good thing. That's sort of my, I don't know, secret weapon or backup plan, is to have some content creators I really enjoy within that space, and to then go out and watch them, and then that gives me the motivation to then, you know, get out of a rut and get back into the swing of things. And I think motivation has become a bit underrated within society, where it's all about habits and all about discipline. And, you know, forget motivation, it's fleeting, we shouldn't rely on it, we shouldn't use it. And yeah, you shouldn't rely on it. But if you are motivated, then take advantage of it. Don't just say, oh, you know, it's motivation, my habit says that I can only do this for an hour today, so I'm only going to do it for an hour today. Yeah, okay, but I think that's a very low level way of thinking. And really we should be more attuned to ourselves. And if we are motivated, if you want to read all day, then read all day. Just because, you know, at the start I said you've got to read an hour and 40 every day to get your 100 books. Yeah, on average. And that's the important thing. These are averages, not, you know, daily you've got to check in your hour and 40, otherwise you're going to fail. It's a plan for a year. And really it's a plan for life in terms of how much you want to read. So I think there's not enough nuance in the way that we think about these ideas. And motivation, yes, it can be great. Obviously it's not something we should rely on, but it still exists. And we can't just sort of shove it to the side and say, no, habits, discipline, that's the only way to go. I don't know. I don't agree with that way of thinking. I think motivation has its place, and if it hits you, use it. Take advantage of it, but don't let it burn you out. I suppose that is a caveat. Don't, you know, read all day and then for 2 weeks you don't want to read anything anymore. When it's time to stop. Those are some of the ideas and mentalities that I try to keep in mind. Not necessarily always with books, but just in terms of anything that I want to do. Anything I want to do more of, or I want to become a regular part of my life. I think those are very helpful, and in particular for books, it does work. I would just say though, work out if you do want it. Work if you do want to read 100 books, or you just want to read more books. And spend time with the books you have. It doesn't have to be 100 new books. I like to reread a lot, and I think that should become a more commonplace idea within sort of the booktube community, but also communities wider than that, in terms of you can reuse what you have, you can go back to what you have, and we don't need to be chasing the novel. It's, well, the new. Totally unintentional, I didn't mean that. Well, you know, my brilliant puns have just thrown me off. So I think we shouldn't just be chasing new things and always looking for that different hit, always searching for what else we can acquire, what else we can get and bring into our lives. Sometimes it's, what do we have and what can we do with it? That's where the real creativity, real brilliance comes from. See you in the next one.